Hi, everybody. Welcome to Beyond the Cage, presented by Fight Chicks. I'm your host, Jim Graham, alongside my co-host, The Juice, Dave Sadler. Joining us on the line, we have a very special guest. He will be fighting in Bellator's Season 10 lightweight tournament. He is Brandon Girtz. Brandon, thanks for joining us here on Beyond the Cage.
Well, thanks for having me, guys.
And Brandon, I know we're only a few months here into 2014, but how has your year been so far?
It's been great. Just pretty much the whole year's been getting ready for this tournament fight. I picked up, moved myself to Denver, Colorado right now, and started training out at Girtz Training Center. And, other than the great training, it's been great to get away from the tundra of Minnesota, I'll tell you what.
Well, looking at your new camp there in Colorado, what has been the biggest difference training there in Denver as opposed to training where you grew up there in Minnesota?
It's different. I needed a little shake-up. I've been training for 6 years, and it starts to kind of get the same every day, and I had to shake myself out of there and kind of wake up a new beast, New change always, wakes you up a little bit. So, a major thing I did love was that elevation. I mean, at first when I got here, it hit me hard. So, I know that has to help my training. And then also working with Trevor Whitman, he's the man with the hands. It's been fun.
Now, I know you wrestled in college at Minnesota State and did pretty well. In fact, you were All-American while you were there. So was it an easy transition from you to go to MMA, or was there an in-between period before you started training mixed martial arts?
I thought it was a pretty easy transition. I feel like wrestling is one of the best bases to take because it's an individual sport. So I was already, obviously you have your team in wrestling, but when you go out there on the mat, they're not helping you. So I thought it was a very easy transition, especially with cutting weight and just having that one-on-one competition. I found it easy, especially since I could go against the boxer, and all I had to do was take him down. So it made it easy in my first few fights to transition because I just pretty much wrestled and let it evolve from there.
When you step into the cage or the gym, is there any particular fighter that you try to model yourself after, Brandon?
Well, you know what, to tell you the truth, my all-time guy I try to model myself after is Mike Tyson. I know he's not an MMA fighter, but I've always looked up to that guy. I know it's kind of a crazy hero, but I just love the meanness he brought to the cage. And, always has been a guy I've looked up to. It's weird, but that's always been the guy I've looked up to.
Good guy to look up to, though.
Hell yeah.
Now, Brandon, you've already fought in Bellator 4 times, so when you heard that you were going to be in a Bellator tournament this year, how excited were you?
I was pretty excited. I mean, that's what I was working towards from the beginning when I signed with them. Obviously I had a little stepping stone I had to get over after that loss. Obviously, this is a guy I'm about to fight here in a week. And so once I finally got the nod that I was going to be in it, it was super exciting because that's what I was working towards.
Hey, Brandon, earlier you mentioned that you made the move out to Grudge. I was just, and you also had, you mentioned, the altitude and all that kind of stuff. Have you had a fight since you've been at Grudge, or will this be your first fight after training at a Mile High?
This will be my first fight. I've been out here I pretty much came out here just for this training camp. So.
Cool. Do you expect there to be a completely different feeling having trained at a Mile High coming into this fight?
I can't see it not being. It has to help. I mean, like I said, coming here, it was best the first couple weeks, and even when I visited before, and even back when I had a wrestling tournament here, 7 years ago, I remember coming here and wrestling here. I would die in the first period. It's unbelievable. So you would believe, and you mentally have to think it's got to help you.
looking at the 7 other fighters in the tournament that starts next Friday night, is there anybody that you're really looking forward to having the opportunity to face?
Yeah, I would have to say there's 2 guys, and one of them is Marcel Held, and the reason is because the guy's a magician on the ground, and that's normally where I take my fights. So I'm excited for him to force me to try to keep it standing, and for the last 4 or 5 years, all I had really worked on is my hands, but I never really get to showcase them because instincts take over, and when you're in a fight, you know, if you're the better wrestler, I got to bring him where he's not as good. But in that situation, I feel like I would love to him make me stay on my feet, and then you guys can actually see the power I actually do have in my hands. And the other guy's Rickles. I would really like to fight him too, because he's another guy that's a grinder. And I feel like that would end up making us both be on our feet too. Because I would really love to have a fight on my feet. I mean, like I said, that's what I've worked in the last 5 years. I've worked hard on my hands, and I just haven't been able to showcase them because I go against a good striker every time. And obviously, the smart thing for me to do is bring him down where he's not good.
If the plan works out that you get to fight Held and Rickles, you'll be fighting for a title shot, and I think it's $100,000 because the way Bellator's got it set up, it would be Held and then Rickles. It'd be your path to the final. So that works out good for you.
Exactly. That's what I'm seeing as the ultimate path right there.
Excellent. Well, you talked about your skills, and Jim mentioned your wrestling in college. In the tournament format, you can't use elbows on the ground. Is that something that affects your game plan? Because you've never had that rule since you've been in Bellator.
You know what? And I keep telling myself that's the best thing that these first 2 guys got going for them. Is that I can't elbow them when they're on the ground, because that is one of my favorite things to do when I'm on top. It's just with the way that I position myself and everything. Normally that's my best weapon. So it is going to be a little bit weird, but for the last 2 months, I've been working on not using my elbows. You know, the only thing that scares me is one might slip through, because after you're used to it and just reaction. But I'm going to be happy when I'm in that finals and with I hope Rickles, and I can use my elbow in that final.
Now, speaking of the lightweights, Alvarez and Chandler are going to fight each other for the 3rd time. Which has basically put the lightweight division on hold. If you were to win the tournament, is waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting for a title shot, is that going to be bothersome for you?
You know what? It isn't going to be bothersome to me, really. I thought about that already, and, I'm going to win that tournament. I'm going to be happy there. And something I've always wanted, hopefully Bellator will let me maybe do a boxing match, because that's something I've been wanting to do. And if I got a year and they let me do that, I'll be happy about it, because after I win $100,000, and I'll be sitting all right for a little bit. And I love to make goals. And a goal of mine is to have a good boxing match. So that'll give me time for that. So,
if you do win the tournament in $100,000, does that mean you get to leave Minnesota permanently?
I can never leave my home permanently. That's where the family and that's where the heart is. But you better believe I'll be living somewhere else during the winter time. You better do that. Hey,
I'm about 8 hours south of where you're at, and it's no treat down here either. So, and Jim's about 4 hours east of me, and it's no treat at his house either. So.
Man, it's just been.
Yeah, it's brutal.
Go ahead. Yeah, it's been bad. It's not cool. I'll tell you, living in just hibernating in your house, to your car, to your work, to your house. That's not fun for no one.
No, it's not. Hey, going back, you talked about, we talked about wrestling in college and all that. The opportunity to fight 3 times in a 2-month span in this tournament, does that help you with your wrestling background where you were fighting every week? I guess long story short, 3 times in 2 months. Is that going to phase you?
I definitely, I mean, it's still going to be different for me because it's a fight, but I definitely think wrestlers have an edge. I mean, if you even look back, I mean, obviously look at the last winner, Will Brooks, or even Chandler. I mean, this is stuff that we've done. We're used to going into our next wrestling match with a hurt shoulder. You know, I mean, some days we wrestled, 8 times at a tournament. So we know how to grind through that, and that's kind of how I feel this tournament is. It's a grind. So I definitely think wrestlers have an edge on that.
Jim Graham and Dave Sadler talking with Bellator fighter Brandon Girtz here on Beyond the Cage, presented by Fight Chicks. And Brandon, I know we're a few days from Bellator 113, but what is your weight looking at right now?
Oh, my weight's excellent. It's been pretty low since I've been out here. I'm about 10 out, and that's exactly where, I just got done with practice, and I was exactly 10 pounds out, and that's exactly where I want to be a week out. I mean, like I said, though, I could be 20 pounds out, and I'm going to make that weight, that's the mentality. I won't let the weight cut break me, for sure. That's the second thought to me.
Your opponent at Bellator 113, Derek Campos, you have fought him before, and since that fight, how much have you been looking forward to getting another shot at him?
Oh, I'm super excited. I was supposed to fight him again. I think it was like a fight after they wanted me to fight him, and I jumped at the bit on that. I thought that was one of my worst losses. It wasn't, like when I broke my arm or my other loss, I just wasn't ready. This loss I was hesitant the whole time. I lost, before that fight, like I said, that's why I'm out here in Denver now. I lost my drive a little bit, and that fight right there, I wasn't driven. That was not me fighting out there. So I'm super excited to have this fight with him again, because this time there's going to be an actual fight, not me, not the shadow of myself out there.
And since you fought Derek Campos, you have rattled off 2 straight submission victories. Is there anything different in those 2 fights that you didn't do in the Derek Campos fight?
Yeah, just like I said, those fights I brought it right away. I didn't sit there and wait. I didn't move around and try to pick my points. I exploded on both those guys, and they, from the beginning of the bell, they had nothing they could do. And that's what I expect here. I expect to just explode on Campos, and he's going to see a completely different fighter, and I don't feel like he's going to be able to handle it.
And looking at your fight against Derek, what do you expect from him the second time around?
I'm thinking, he knows I'm going to want to take him down. I'm hoping maybe he works with some wrestlers to try to stop that. But other than that, I don't know. Like I said, he fought a pretty version of me. So I don't know how comfortable he's feeling or what it is, but I don't know if he's going to change up his game plan too much. I saw his last fight, and he took the guy down maybe 3 times. So, and I know he doesn't think he's going to take me down. So, I really don't know what he's thinking in his head right now.
Now, the main event of Bellator 113 is Attila Veg taking on Emmanuel Newton to be the undisputed light heavyweight champion. I was wondering if you had a pick in that one.
I'm going Newton. And the only reason is that dude is awesome. He was at a photo shoot that I was at, and he was a hell of a guy, man, joking around, just a nice guy to everybody. And after that, I was a fan of him after that. I like friendly dudes. I don't like the guys that come in there and they're mean mugging you for no damn reason. He was having a good time and just friendly with everybody. It didn't, and after that, I was a fan of him. I didn't know him before that, but after that, I was a fan of watching him, and his unorthodox moves, I like the dude. So I'm picking him all the way.
Hey, Brandon, one final question, and I'm sure in all the interviews you've ever done, you've never been asked this before, but I'm looking at, I'm on Sherdog.com. I typed in your name, and it tells me all of your fight history. So your first 4 fights, you won, and the name of the promotion is called Brutal with 2 A's. Do you have any idea why there's 2 A's in brutal? Because I cannot figure that out for the life of me.
You know, they're trying to be different, you know, or he just couldn't spell. I don't know. you know, he just, brutal's not around anymore, so maybe that tells you something.
Yeah, well, maybe me and Jim, maybe we could change our name to Brutal the Cage or something with 2 A's. I don't know. I was just looking at it, and like I said, I'm in the Chicagoland area, and there's promotions, you know, like just random names. Fire Extreme, Chaos, Cutthroat, all these weird names, but like not even just Brutal, but Brutal with 2 A's. That's hilarious.
I had to fight with who I could.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Brandon, we wish you the best of luck in your fight against Derek Campos. It was a pleasure having you on, and hopefully if you are victorious against Derek, we'd love to have you on again to preview your semifinal fight in the tournament.
Absolutely. I appreciate you guys having me.
All right, once again, that was Brandon Girtz right here on Beyond the Cage, presented by Fight Chicks.